Hey, we're back. This is John.
Hey, it's Paul.
And it's Eric.
And it's What If Geeks. We're here with our final review for WandaVision. This is episode 9, the series finale. And spoiler alert in case you haven't had a spoiler alert for like 9 fucking episodes. But I'll just get it out of the way in the beginning. I can't sing, but I will go down with this ship. Yeah, we'll get into that later. Yeah, but I went down with that ship hard. So yeah, all right. So this is the series finale, and I mean it was definitely a CGI fest, like they said.
Yeah.
And all right, let's get into it. So I mean, we open up immediately after the last episode in the street with Wanda and Agatha facing off, and Wanda tells her, let my fucking kids go, and then attacks her and knocks her to the street. Tells the kids go in the house because Agatha just raises up like the goddamn Undertaker.
Yeah.
And tells the kids, listen to mom, boys. And they square off in the street, and Agatha shows that she's absorbing the magic that Wanda hit her with, and tells her, it's what she does. It's kind of her thing. She absorbs the power from the undeserving, and tells Wanda, if you give over your power, I'll let you keep Westview. And Wanda promptly hits her with a fucking car and slams her into her house. Which next part was great because she goes over and looks under the car and she sees Agatha's boots under the car, which is yet another nod to Wizard of Oz and the Wicked Witch of the East this time. But she dropped her, dropped the car on her. Dorothy dropped the house on her. So you see the boots. If they had curled up, I would have laughed my ass off. Yeah. But they were just sitting there, and Spectral Vision, the White Vision, floats down, and Wanda's confused by how he looks and goes up and asks him if it's really Vision. And he takes her head in his hands, all like caressing her, and then he starts to crush her skull, trying to kill her. And while she's kind of stuck there, Hex Vision comes flying out of nowhere and slams him into a car or a vehicle and makes it blow up. I think a lot of shit happens fast here.
In keeping with the last episode, was the last episode the one before Pietro? We got to call him Fission.
Fission. Yeah. Nice.
Not that sounds different than Vision, really. But.
Yeah. So I was going with the Spectral Vision, but okay, we can go with Fission.
Lily White.
It's going to be great with audio podcasts. It's not going to confuse anybody. So the vehicle blows up, and Wanda tells Hex Vision that she should have told him everything ahead of time, what she did, and he basically tells her that he understands why she did what she did. And then Spectral Vision comes walking out of the flames like the T-1000, which I think is another second nod to the Terminator. There was another Terminator moment in this series. I can't remember what it was though. Might have been like when he was in the chamber. I don't know. But yeah, he comes just marching out of there, and they say they're going to fight for their home, and they fly off, which is actually the opposite of fighting. But okay. So then we got cut to Monica yelling for Wanda as they fly off, and you realize that she's locked in the house with Pietro, and Pietro tells her to chill out. Nobody can hear her. So she sees the window. She goes to make a move for the window, and he super speeds over there, and then he flicks a finger into her chest and knocks her on the ground, right? So, again, using Pietro's powers, which we're going to get more and more into because, yay. I'm a little irritated by this part. Who wants to take over? Anybody? Cut to the Visions.
Oh, the Vision fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is part of that super CGI fest that they've got going. The two Visions are flying around, fighting, phase shifting. It seems like the
which is really cool.
Yeah, it was kind of cool, except for it seemed like the Lily White Vision didn't actually know how to use his power. It's like all the way, because the other Vision kept phasing and like grabbing him, like, you know, with the hand, you know, half through, and the other one was like, it didn't seem to be. I mean, I guess in some ways it's sort of an infant, right? It's a new erased sort of Vision.
Yeah, you
really didn't
kind of give it like
it didn't know what to do. It didn't know all the tips and tricks.
Yeah, Hayward already just got it online, so really didn't have a chance to play around with his powers.
The wily veteran knows how to use all the little tips and tricks, right? The rookie just tries to use the raw power.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's an air fight. The color Vision ends up, I think, taking him all the way down to the street. They put a massive crater in the ground.
Don't say color.
Purple face Vision.
Sorry.
Anyway, the white Vision tells the other Vision he's got to be destroyed. They're going at their thing, and he does this really weird kick move out of the crater, where he pulls the other one away. You know, some of this, this is like a normal Marvel thing, but some of this fighting stuff in this super CGI fest like completely defies physics. It's like, what the hell? How the hell did he kick off him, and now they're both flying through the air?
Yeah, true.
But I think that's really it. We see them fly off at the end of that, but we don't actually know what happened to them yet.
No.
The fight is carrying on, presumably, as they cut back to the base camp outside, right?
Yep.
The FBI, well, it's not an FBI camp yet, but it's going to be soon.
Sword still.
Yeah, so they've captured Jimmy. They bring him in there. I think Wu was asking him about the white Vision, you know, if he still has him under control or whatever. And I don't remember how the whole thing plays out, but
Hayward basically tells him none of it really matters because there's no more feed coming from Wanda's show. So whichever Vision leaves, people are going to think it's the real Vision.
Yeah.
So,
and at some point, Jimmy sort of surreptitiously grabs a phone.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was his phone or what. And I thought they were going to do that old sort of TV trope where he gets the bad guy to admit to the grand plan. And
that's what I thought at first, yeah.
Right. And that he was going to, you know, he had set the video recorder or the voice recorder on the phone, and he was going to tell me your whole plan. And he lays it all out.
Because he basically does, though. He tells him
right.
It doesn't matter, whatever happens, you know, I'm still going to win, yada, yada.
Right.
So that's what you think is going to happen. And it doesn't.
So they end up tossing him into a barn or something at the end of that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a conversation between them, but it's not really all that relevant.
No, basically he tells him to the key part of that was Hayward tells him, why don't you, you know, if you had you'd join me if you had more vision. And Wu says, real clever, but you know, my friends at Quantico aren't going to think so. They'll be here within the hour. And he's like, really? Whatever, and dumps him in a barn.
Yeah.
That's when Wu picks the lock on the handcuffs and holds him up and says, flourish. Another little trick he learned from Ant-Man, right? So I'm loving the little magic nods and like just the nods to the overall MCU. I love how the MCU does this. How they just kind of like, they do their little nods to everything else within the universe. It's cool. Yeah. Or I guess soon the multiverse.
The little Easter eggs, right?
Yeah. So then he picks up the phone that we thought he was going to record on, and he calls his buddy at Quantico, and he's like, hey, can you get here within the hour? Which is kind of funny.
You know, a lot of this is amusing. Not that we to knock Marvel storylines or comic book storylines at all, really, because they're always kind of ridiculous at moments. But you're telling me the FBI, right, responds to something a super secret government, pseudo-government agency is doing, right, on like a national security level, and the FBI is there like, yeah, we got this. We're taking this shit over. You're fucking corrupt, bro.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you know, we're talking about like two super-powered synthesoids running around.
Yeah. That's you don't really have to knock
witches
it. It's just mildly amusing because they created Sword, they created Shield like as part of the story because you needed something like bigger and badder than FBI or NSA or these other things, right? And now you've got the FBI coming in and taking everything over. Yeah. But I forgot what the hell is this. Oh yeah, the other part. I said this a couple episodes ago, but man, these fucking security guards that Sword has, they are the worst. Right. Like the worst. Not only did he grab up a cell phone and pick a lock, and somehow was able to call somebody without being noticed, he somehow gets out of the fucking barn.
Yeah, well, if you look at the credits, it says Cannon Fodder #1, Cannon Fodder. They don't give him much credit.
I don't know how Sword is beating or defeating or helping any superheroes or supervillains anywhere ever.
I don't know. So
I think it's back to the town after that, right?
Yeah. So Wanda's in the town center, and she sees the residents all around her. I guess they start to walk up to her, right? Or no, Agatha attacks her first.
Yeah, Agatha attacks her first and confirms that book is indeed the
Darkhold.
Yeah, the Darkhold.
Yeah, and she tells her there's a whole chapter about you in the Darkhold. You make you can conjure subconsciously, or however she says it. And she goes, there's a whole chapter about the Scarlet Witch, and your magic even surpasses the Sorcerer Supreme, which is your first nod to Doctor Strange, leading into Doctor Strange 2, right? Then Wanda denies being the Scarlet Witch and says, no one taught me magic.
She denies being a witch at all.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not a witch. I don't use magic. You've been using magic, but you've been doing
around this whole town.
Yeah. But now, in her defense, okay, she thinks she just got given some abilities by this stone, so she doesn't know what the hell this woman is talking about.
And she doesn't have to chant or say something in Latin. She doesn't have to do the whole Latin thing and the
right
cast
all runes on a wall or whatever other nonsense. Pluck people's hair.
Yeah, she doesn't have to do any. It helps, but she doesn't have to do any of that. But that's Agatha's whole point. Is you don't have to do any of this stuff. Nobody had to teach you. You can just do it. And I want it.
And there's a line here that may become relevant later. It obviously doesn't play into this episode specifically, but she tells her that the book says she's destined to destroy the world, basically.
Yeah, and I think that's where that's going to show up in our theory that she may be the initial antagonist and then side with Doctor Strange in Multiverse of Madness, where something she does there, which we'll get into later, but something she does there probably starts some shit. Strange probably confronts her, and then they work together, which is what they do everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously have gone way outside of the storyline, but they could still do the part where she's basically bad, maybe unknowingly at first, and then switches sides eventually when she understands what's going on, right? And so obviously she's not working for Hydra now. That whole thing is sort of past. They really made nothing out of it.
But even in the last episode, Monica tells her, Hayward wants to destroy everything. Don't let him make you the villain. And Wanda says, what makes you think I'm not already? Or what? Something to that effect, So she's still borderline. She's very suspect at this point. But Agatha starts to release the residents from Wanda's spell, and they start one by one. They start with Dottie. Dottie's like, hey, I've got kids, and my daughter's your kid's age. She could be your friend if you want that in the script or whatever,
If you like that storyline, that's what she says.
Yeah, if you like that storyline. So, and Wanda's just like kind of panicking at this point. It's just like, it's not what she wanted, So you could tell like she did a lot of this subconsciously, and then one by one she's releasing more and more residents that start to surround her, and then we cut back to Monica and Pietro, and that name's growing on me. So she asks him where are we, and he's like, we're in my man cave. This is where I hang out. This is where I chill out while the missus is stirring up trouble. And initially, like he's messing around in there, and there's like it's set up a lot like the Fox Pietro when they go to find him, and he's like playing video games and doing whatever. He's just chilling out, much like that character. So I really didn't see this next part coming, because up to this point, we all know what I thought, right? Mm-hmm. So she picks up, Monica picks up a picture, and it's an actor's headshot, and it's fucking Pietro, but underneath it, his name is Ralph Boner. And she goes, "You live here. Your name is Ralph Boner?" And he just goes, "Boner." So, which, okay, we'll get into that more, but my initial reaction to that was, if he's laughing at it, is it even real? You know what I mean? Like, is that whole part made up? And we can get into that theory later on too. But he's got a picture of himself as an actor. It's a headshot. Yeah, and that's his name. So she asks him how he's being controlled, and he's like, you want to go again? He gets ready to fight her, and she just drops his ass like a bad habit and kneels on top of him and realizes that his necklace around is glowing purple, like with Agatha's magic. So she snaps it off of him, and he snaps out of the magic control right away. And it's like, don't hurt me. So he's really Ralph.
He's the Ralph that she's been talking about.
Yeah, this is the fucking Ralph she's been talking about this whole time.
The unnamed Ralph from the one where she's like, Ralph looks better in the dark. Ralph does this. Ralph does that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. This is Ralph, really. So I've got my problems with that, and we'll go into that later. Let's keep going to the episode, though. You motherfuckers.
back to the town square, I think. And at this point, she's completely surrounded. Everybody is harassing her about.
It's very Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Which is a nice nod, because the Halloween episode, that's the movie that was playing on the projector. Was Night of the Living Dead. Yep. Yeah.
But it's like, it's weird. They sort of reveal in this little thing, like, they know they're being controlled, but they also kind of know why. Because one of the people, I think it was Ned, the guy that played Ned or whatever, was like, your grief is what's keeping us here, kind of thing. Like he knew what was going on, even though he never once had an interaction with her at any point that we saw.
Right, yeah. Because she's in their heads, they can feel her pain, her grief, and everything.
Well, and they experience her nightmares, and
that's what I was just gonna say. Yeah.
For me, the scariest one was Deborah Jo Rapp from that '70s show, who played Mrs. Hart in the first episode, the one who kept saying "Stop it."
Yeah.
She says something like, "Let us go, or just let us die. Like, we can't do this anymore."
Right.
And it was. That was deep. Like, this was, they didn't try to cover this up, that like, oh, it's okay, Wanda, we get it, you're sad and you kept us here, it's cool. Like, it was very you're really doing damage to these people. And I think this is where she flips, right?
That's
where she sort of explodes.
Wanda says, I will, and then you don't know what she's saying I will to. You're going to let him go, you're going to kill him.
Right.
But then she lashes out, and she starts to bring down the hex.
Yeah, and like tendrils wrap all their necks, and they all freaking.
Oh, yeah, that was the first thing. The first thing was,
they're
it was before this.
Right? They're about to close in on her.
Yeah, and she freaks out and says, stop, and her magic makes tendrils around their necks and chokes them off. And then when she realizes what she's doing, she releases it, and she's like, I'm sorry. She apologizes for a second, and then they tell her more, and that's when Mrs. Hart says that, and Wanda says, I will, and she starts to break down the hex. And as she's breaking it down, she tells them, go, run. So they all start to make a run for it. And we're on the outside, and Hayward sees the hex breaking down, and he's like, get it in gear, let's fucking go. So they're going to go into the hex. So
the hex is breaking at the corners. There's like fissures opening at the at the edges of the hex or whatever, and so they decide they're going to make a break for one of those openings and go in with the army of useless fucking people and trucks that they have. But before we get there, though, the Vision fight I think starts back up, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're still fighting.
Yeah, they're
in the air.
Yeah, and there's like they're fighting with their beams or whatever from their foreheads.
Yep.
And apparently, I can't call them white vision. What is it? Spectre vision. Spectre vision and purple vision. Spectre vision has apparently learned a little bit about how to use his powers, and he actually overpowers
Hex vision.
Hex vision.
You're welcome.
Overpowers Hex vision, and his beam breaks through, and he knocks him down, and then he falls like literally next to Wanda. And Wanda, he sees Wanda, he sees what's happening. She looks over, she sees that he's starting to break up.
Like he did before,
Yep. And then the kids come crawling into the scene on the ground.
Well, initially, like when she first sees him, he stands up and it looks like he tells her, no, like, don't stop. Like he tells her, no, but then the kids zip in and start yelling for her, and you look over to them and they're on the ground breaking up too. That's when Agatha reveals the big ploy. So oh, this plot's getting me choked up.
So as soon as the kids start whining, though, she stops. She stops what she's doing. She stops breaking the hex.
Yeah, because Agatha tells her, well, here's the big thing. You've tied your family to this reality you've made, and they can't survive without each other. So what are you going to do?
You can let these people go, and they'll be okay, but your family won't. Or you keep them sort of enslaved to this, but your family's okay.
Right.
And she's like,
so Wanda closes up the hex again.
She's like, nope, keep the family.
Yeah. Which, I mean, at that point, you can't blame her. I mean, she's panicking. Yeah. But, so, let's see. Agatha attacks her again with a big blast of magic while they're all grouped together, the family. And Wanda blocks it. And you see that all her magic's being absorbed back at Agatha again. And that's the other thing we didn't note, but every time Agatha steals magic from Wanda, her body starts to decay a little bit. It starts with her hands turning black, or whatever. But the family realizes it now. So they're like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, fine, whatever." And then Sword arrives because yay. So they show up, and fucking Spectral Vision shows up out of nowhere and attacks Hex Vision, and they go after each other in another building, right? They slam
into a library.
Yeah. Which perfect setting for what's coming up next. But Spectral Vision tells him he's following his programming. He's supposed to destroy the Vision, and Hex Vision says he's not the real Vision. So Spectral Vision asks for more elaboration. And we come back out to the street. And hang on. Sorry.
This is where Wanda says, you take care of the military.
Yeah.
I'll fight Agatha. She doesn't say this. She's like, you handle them. I'll handle Agatha. And Dad's going to handle Spectral Vision.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, and it was like right before that, they did have one cute family moment where Vision tells them, boys, we didn't raise you to this. And Wanda says, but you were born for it. And they do this little pose, and it's almost like right out of The Incredibles, right? Like the little family of four get ready to fight.
Yeah.
So it was funny. But yeah, she tells them, boys, handle the military. And then she just vanishes. She's gone. And so, they do whatever they're going to do with the military, right? Speedy runs around and fucks with all the military, comes back with
snatches their hats and glasses.
Comes back just like Pietro in the Fox movies. I remember he's stealing shit from the guys. And then Hayward starts shooting at them, at the kids. So, okay, everyone else is useless. fucking Hayward like loses his shit and starts shooting at the kids, and Monica jumps in the way, and the bullets hit her. When they hit her, they slowly, like you see her body kind of turns to energy where the bullets hit her, and they slowly stop their momentum and then just drop to the floor behind her. Last bullet coming at them, Wiccan stops with a little bit of power, and the two of them look at each other and they're like, like your skills, whatever. But so yeah, I think we cut back to the two visions in the library. This is where they have that discussion, that philosophy.
They have a logic battle.
Quick thing, there may be no meaning to it, but if you remember, the Monica Rambeau in the comics was exposed to extra dimensional energy. That's what gave her abilities. Now, we've talked a few times about, are there other dimensions here? Are there things that they're bringing in? Did people, could be another indicator that something's, leaning in that direction. Again, going into Doctor Strange, it makes a lot of sense, but
yeah, I would
Wanda has somehow opened things up.
Yeah, and when we get to the end, I'll expand a little bit more, but I would still say that Wanda is somehow tapping into a multiverse of things, but they don't really go through it here, and we'll talk about that. But Spectral Vision, Hex Vision are talking, and basically Hex Vision's elaboration is, he asked him, have you ever, do you know the story of the ship Theseus? And basically it was the ship of Theseus was broken down, rotting, and as they replaced boards, eventually all of the ship was replaced. Is it still the same ship? And then if you take those same boards and you take away the rot, is that, the ship? However they say it, you got to watch it. Sorry. I'm not a philosopher, in case you hadn't told, but I got the basics.
Now that's the right explanation.
Yeah. And the two of them are discussing that story. So then basically they agree that neither one of them is the true vision, but at the same time, both of them are. Is kind of where they're at, is basically what the allegory is. And Spectral Vision says basically like, he knows he's the body. And Hex Vision says, no, your memories are in there. He tells him, you don't have your memories because you make a better weapon that way, but you still have your memories. So he says, if you'll, he goes, basically, may I? And he touches Vision's, Spectral Vision's, the arc reactor thing that looks like it's supposed to be where the Mind Stone is, and unlocks all his memories. And then you see Spectral Vision's eyes turn from the circuitry to human, to the Vision's eyes. And then they look at each other for a second, and he kind of cocks his head, and he says, I am Vision. And then flies through the fucking skylight, and he's gone. I'm like, great. All right, so I guess we'll see you later. He'll show up again later. And we can get into that at the end of this when we have our theories. So then I guess we get back to, right after the kids were fighting with the military, you hear a little horn beep, and Darcy has her one scene where she slams the funnel cake into Hayward's Humvee that he's tried to jump into to run away in.
Yeah, he was going to run away after he tried to shoot the kids, and it didn't work. And so she pins him in there, and she's like, good luck in jail.
Yeah, man. So, and that, I guess we'll just say it now. After everything with coronavirus and whatever else, I guess they couldn't get her back for any more scenes. So they just basically, that was all she had. They were supposed to have more, and we'll discuss that later. But that was the scene they were left with her. So she doesn't get a lot to do in this episode. But she pinned Hayward down, so yay. Drop back to Wanda. She finally shows back up, and she sneaks up behind Agatha and does her little finger waggle next to her head like she did to Iron Man in Civil War. But no, not Civil War. Age of Ultron. And gets into her head, warps her over to the witch coven where she was at the stake. And Agatha's on the stake, and all the corpses start to stand up. and Agatha's like begging her, "No, please stop, please stop." And then the corpses start to whisper to Wanda, which is pretty creepy. So we're getting more and more into that little bit of horror element, which is kind of cool. They start to whisper to her, and then Agatha's mom stands up and tells Wanda in that corpse whisper, "You are the Scarlet Witch." And Wanda's like, "Fuck," So you realize Agatha's never really been in any kind of danger. She's fucking with Wanda some more. She let her bring her there. Straps Wanda to the stake and tells her again, "Look, give me your power. I'll let you have Westview. I'll fix what you fucked up, and you can have your family." And that's it. So Wanda attacks her, and they come out of that vision, and they're in the sky, and she tells her, "Fine, take it. I don't want it." And she starts like throwing her magic bolts at her. And this was key. I didn't catch on to this right away, so it was kind of clever. I caught it right at the last second. But she's throwing magic at her, and she's hitting her, but she's missing her, and they're kind of like the bolts are flying off every which way. And every time she hits her, Agatha's absorbing the magic, And as she's doing it, she's slowly withering away into like this dried up, mummified looking husk. And finally, there's nothing left, and Agatha's got all her magic, and tries to absorb it a little bit more, and then tells her, "Look, I can never fix this. This is like, could only I can't fix what another witch did." Basically, is what she tells her. So this is always going to be broken. And she goes to attack her with her magic, and nothing happens. There's like a little puff of purple smoke, and that's it. And she tries it again. And then Wanda's body looks up at her, and her eyes glow red, and the little glamour that she had over herself goes away, and she's perfectly fine. And then it scales back, and you see the hex, and on the hex, you see every missed shot she made was actually her setting up a rune all around the hex. So the entire fucking town, only Wanda could use the magic. And that's what she says. She tells her, "Runes. Only the witch that casts the runes can use her magic. Thanks for the lesson." And then she absorbs all of her magic back and Agatha's and drops her like a bad fucking habit, which is ridiculous. So,
is that the point where she gets the true Scarlet Witch outfit?
When she absorbs all, the magic.
That's actually, if you remember the Mind Stone scene, where there was like a figure, I swear this is the exact same thing when she's absorbing the magic. She was seeing her future self.
I said it when we reviewed that episode. I said I think she was seeing the future. So yeah, she saw this scene. Once she absorbs it all back, she transforms into the MCU version of the Scarlet Witch, and damn, she looked good. Yeah. And they did a good job with it.
It's a cool costume.
It's a really conservative version, but it looks good.
It is, yes, but it looks really good for an MCU version of a costume. It's right up there with all the other ones. So it definitely fits perfectly. So Agatha drops to the street and is laying on the ground, and she tells her, like, you don't know what you've done, you don't know what you've unleashed. And Wanda tells her, she says, "You're going to kill me now?" And Wanda says, "No, I'm going to leave you here, and I'm going to give you the role that you chose, the nosy neighbor." So Agatha realizes she's going to mind wipe her and just make her a resident of Westview. And Agatha tells her, "No, you don't know what you've done. You don't know what you've unleashed. You're going to need me." And Wanda tells her, "Well, I know where to find you," which is going to be later on somewhere in the MCU, which goes back to in the comics where Agatha did train her at some point and was kind of good. That's where you get that Agatha turn later on in another movie somewhere. Maybe a Scarlet Witch movie. Who the fuck knows? But you'll see her later. She's definitely there. She's out there still. So she mind wipes her and changes her into the little Agnes character. which is funny. I give Catherine Hahn all the credit in the world. I mean, I've liked her in the little bit parts I've seen her in. She totally grew on me in this series. And that last little bit where she's like, "Well, howdy, neighbor.
Yeah.
You know, look at you."
Okie dokie, artichoke.
Yeah. Is it hot in here? Or is it just you? She's just so perfect in this role. So she walks away from them and reunites with Vision and the kids, and then he tells her, I know you're gonna set everything right, just not for us. And that's where my notes end because I ran out of time. So we're flying off the cuff now.
Yeah.
Well, so they go back. They go back to the house. She shrinks the hex down at that point. I think so. It's just around the house, although it's not entirely clear. But
it's been steadily shrinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's only around the house by the time they go inside and start tucking the kids into bed.
Yeah, it starts coming because you see it go back over everything else, and everything turns back to sort of the blighted city that it was.
Yeah.
Until it's coming down their street, and they get the kids tucked in and do all that stuff.
And it's not funny, but I mean it's cool too because like as a viewer, you already kind of know what's coming, but the way they do this scene, where the hex kind of holds off right outside the house for a little while, and they tuck the kids in. They don't tell the kids anything. They just good night, and
well, she does say something to them. She says
she does.
She says like a family is forever.
Yes.
And we couldn't get away from each other even if we tried, right? Something like that.
Yeah. And then she ends it with, "Thank you for choosing me to be your mom." And we can get into that again too in a bit. And then they shut the door, and really touching scene, nice. Yeah. And they go downstairs, and Vision they stand in the living room, and they have their moment, where they know everything's going to end right now, and Vision says, "What am I?" And she tells him, "You're the part of the Mind Stone that lives within me, and you're all of my grief and all of my hope and everything." So basically, she tells him like, "You are everything that that makes me whole. That's you." And he says something really cool, and I'm gonna fuck it up royally. So somebody help me out here. But he says like, I was a voice without a body, and then I was a body without a purpose, or a body without something, and then I was this. So who knows what I'll be next time? Right. So basically saying like, yeah, he'll come back, and it's something to that effect, and they say it again to each other, basically like, this isn't goodbye. We'll just, we found each other before, we'll find each other again. Right. And they kiss each other, and until next time. And they kiss each other, and the hex washes over, and she's standing in the empty lot, right, by herself. Puts her hood up and starts walking through the town, and everybody's just glaring at her like, it was just, you could tell. So again, which kudos to MCU. Not every MCU movie has ever had where the heroes were just like praised and lauded over and whatever. While she's still an Avenger and a hero in our eyes, in this show, these people cannot stand her. They're like, you hurt us, and it does not just go away, like you said. It's not just okay. Okie dokie, artichoke. No, only one of them think that.
The stare downs that she gets on the way out of town are brutal.
Yeah.
And I thought at one point they were going to come at her again, but I guess they realized better not do that. She'll just choke us out again.
Yeah, probably.
And then Monica pops in, and Wanda says something like, they're really mad or something like that, and she's like, yeah. And then Monica says, if I had your power, I'd brought my mom back for sure.
Right. Yeah. So basically telling her she understands. Because at first they look at each other and they just kind of nod like, we're cool, And they had that interaction where, and Monica tells her, I'd have brought my mom back. which is cool. Basically telling her like, I totally get what you did. Didn't make it right, but I would have done it too. So and then
Wanda just, I think, turns and flies out.
Flies out. Yeah, she just flies off.
Yep.
Peace out, bitches.
Yep.
So then I think we cut to the first credits, right?
Yeah.
And cut to the first of two post-credit scenes where Monica's in the street, and I think Jimmy Woo was asking her, "Where's Darcy?" He's like, "Oh, she's gone," which covers couldn't get what's her name back, right? And somebody
Jimmy
comes up.
Jimmy starts barking orders like, witness interviews are over there, forensics is over here, blah blah blah.
Yeah, he's taking over. Yeah. And so somebody comes over to her and says, "Hey, you wanted in the theater for debrief." And she walks in and there's nobody in the theater. And she turns around and she's like, "Who's looking for me?" And the person that came to get her changes into a Skrull and says, an old friend wants to talk to you. They're taking a lot of interest in you. And she says, "Where?" And the Skrull points up into space. And Monica just smiles, and then we cut back to credits again.
Is it into space? So I was actually curious about this one. Is she pointing into space? Is she pointing up to a floating?
She's not pointing into the fucking projector room, Eric.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, is it a reference to Nick Fury? What does she actually mean by that? Because they don't disclose anything, right?
No, I think she was talking about Nick Fury up on the sword.
Okay,
that's what I thought.
Yeah,
first.
okay.
Yeah. So then we cut the credits again. It was funny too because at that point I paused it for a second because I had to go do something, and I was like, "There's still like 5 fucking minutes left of this." So I'm like, something else is coming. So I sat back down, go through the credits, and then we cut to our last scene of the show, and you see a cabin out in the middle of nowhere, and as the camera kind of pans closer and closer, you see Wanda sitting on the porch, drinking tea or whatever, and she gets up and she walks into the cabin, and the camera kind of goes through the cabin for a second. And as it goes through the cabin, it goes into the bedroom and turns, and there's Wanda, Scarlet Witch Wanda, as an astral projection, hovering above the ground, scrolling through the Darkhold. And then you hear this astral voice of her kids yelling for mom, "Mom, help." And her eyes glow, and she slams the book shut and throws her hand back, and it cuts. So, what's coming? Now, what's coming after the post-credit scene? What do we got coming on? Theories. How about before we get into theories, episode, discuss what you like, what you didn't like, how they fucked us.
we were talking about this right before we started recording, but I was pretty disappointed in sort of the lack of reveals or some sort of character or an obvious tie-in to a coming movie or something.
Me too.
Something. And Paul made the point, we probably built that up for ourselves, and it's not really fair. But I'd just say they had all the opportunity in the world, and there was no reason they couldn't. And they literally do it at the end of every Marvel movie. So why not here?
Yeah.
And I think that in all the times that I've been disappointed, because I was too, I was disappointed that there wasn't the Skywalker kind of moment, the way that the end
which
of
she
the
said that was.
Oh yeah, Paul Bettany
Right.
owes us $1 for that.
Well, yeah, he trolled the fuck out of it. But we did say, after the Spectral Vision reveal in the chamber, I said, what if he's trolling everybody? And he did.
Yeah, he wanted to work with himself, apparently.
We assumed
I do that once a week.
all the I can relate to myself. All the times I've been disappointed in something, and we talked about this when we did our sort of worst movies of a few years ago, right? And mine was Batman versus Superman. because I wanted it to be so great, and it just wasn't. And I had built that up, and so I had built up that this was the bridge between, you know, the last bunch of Marvel stuff and the next bunch of Marvel stuff, and this was, you know, the opening to Mutants and the opening to the Fantastic Four universe and all the stuff we've talked about.
Same. Yep.
It was, at the end, it's a nice story about Wanda and the Vision and their relationship. And that's essentially all this was. I just put too much on it. The way we did with now they put clues in there that led us to some of those things. Like, we didn't just make this up.
Yeah. And they did not try to persuade us otherwise at all.
Correct. The whole thing about Monica's contact the astrophysicist was done in a way that made you think it was going to be somebody, and turns out to be nobody.
Yep.
That Agatha is the only sort of villain in this, superpowered villain in this.
Pietro.
Yeah. The whole Pietro thing, right? It turns out not to be him. It's just, you know, some dude.
Yeah.
All of it was things we put on the show. But yeah, at the end of it, I'm still disappointed. Like, I'm still left like, I wish it was more.
Now, to your point, two things that I wanted to say on that. One, how we all feel the same, right? Isn't it ironic that this show has us feeling like this now, when in the beginning we walked into it going, we're not quite sure how we feel about this show.
Yeah.
It built us up so quick that we were like, oh fuck, it's coming. And now that made me laugh, because I thought about that, like, wow, that for a show that I wasn't quite sure if it was going to be that great because of the first couple episodes, it ramped up really well. The other side of that is something I heard online, which made a lot of sense to me, was that initially, before COVID and all this other bullshit fucked with production, this was supposed to happen after Falcon and Winter Soldier. Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be the first Disney Plus series that dropped for MCU. Now, again, plus Black Widow was supposed to drop a while ago.
Right.
So could it just be that the way they initially structured it would have flowed better? I don't know, because they decided to go this route. But it could be that Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be that epic whatever, pushing the story forward, and then this was supposed to just be a nice quiet tale, and it just didn't kind of pan out that way. Now, that being said, I would agree with, I'm disappointed that it didn't do half the shit we thought it was going to do. But I hold out hope that since they've said it leads into the next couple of movies, more is coming. Because on that note, I think we all know that I'm drowning in the middle of the ocean next to the Titanic on the Mephisto ship. That shit didn't happen. And I was convinced that was going to happen because it's tied into the comic story. But I'm going to sit down here and just learn to breathe water, because I think he's coming in the Doctor Strange movie. Or at least, because I still have, like, part of me is going with Nightmare because they keep saying the fucking word Nightmare. So I want to say Nightmare's coming too, but again, I mean, there's so many times that we say, oh, this is going to happen, and they pull a fast one on you. But Mephisto is so tied into all of this shit that he's got to be showing up at some point. So I think maybe, not that they wanted him in this part, but maybe they decided to flip some shit and put him in Doctor Strange. Did you guys hear about the deleted scene out of this? So, Eric, you heard about it?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so, and this is coming from the makers, like, this is coming from MCU, right? Those guys said, look, there was a deleted scene that we just decided that it's going to fuck up the flow of what we're doing now. But there was a whole scene in there where Monica finds the kids, and after she's, like, released fucking Ralph Boner, from his spell. And the four of them decide they're going to go sneak into Agatha's basement to try to get a hold of the Darkhold. And when they get down there, the rabbit, Scratchy, is sitting next to the Darkhold. And they're like, oh, look, it's her rabbit. And they walk over to it. And the rabbit fucking like tries to bite them and then transforms into a damn demon. So whether or not it's like her familiar, or if it was true, like what we were thinking, like that was Mephisto or whatever, but they scrapped that whole part. But they confirmed that was going to happen. So I think maybe I might have at least been like partially right. So I get partial credit, but something was happening there with that rabbit, and they decided to scrap it because it wasn't going to work for how they were trying to do the story. So I don't know, but I think that we get into Spider-Man next, right? So you're going to have multiple. I don't know if you're going to have the multiple Spider-Man. They keep trying to squash that, but I think that's like kind of like an almost in your face. Everybody else is there. Why wouldn't they be there? Kind of thing. So we'll see. Good.
Quick thing, because it happened yesterday. Bob Chapek has confirmed that Black Widow is going to be released as planned on May 7th. So that's technically going to be the next one, although it's not going to probably advance the storyline.
Outside of a post-credit scene, probably not.
Yeah.
But, all right, well, let's jump on that. So we know Black Widow's coming next. This is obviously a story that happens pre-Endgame, where she goes back and finds her family and whatever. But, I mean, outside of we know what the trailers show. So, there's some kind of espionage and it's going to be cool. And it's Black Widow, so cool. What kind of post-credit scene do you think you're going to get? You think she's going to come back to life? You think you can get something?
I think there'll probably be an allusion to it. Yeah.
I think maybe it's something like Cap did go back to Vormir and got her back.
Yeah, that could be one way to do it. That's pretty clever. When he time travels,
there is a I don't know how much of a heavy rumor it is, but it's a pretty good rumor that Chris Evans supposedly agreed to come back and play Cap, but we don't know if it's going to be post credit for this. Or for Black Widow, or another rumor was that he could come back and do a flashback scene in Wolverine's life where it shows Wolverine serving with him like he did in the comics at some point. Nobody knows. People are just speculating at this point, but there is a rumor that Chris Evans did agree to come back. I would say my money's on he comes back to bring back Black Widow. Because I think moving forward with the Avengers, you gotta have.
You can't bring back Black Widow without trading another life, right? That was the point of getting the Soul Stone, is that it took a life for a life. It
took a life to get the stone, but if you bring the stone back, we've never seen what happens if you bring the stone back. I'm just speculating. And here's my point. Who's left to run the Avengers moving forward? Everyone kept saying Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's a kid. I mean, he's quote-unquote heir apparent to Stark, which opens up a whole can of worms that we can talk about in a Spider-Man review, that he's not the true comic Spider-Man. But whatever. He's Stark's heir, okay, to everything he's got. Fine. He's not running the fucking Avengers. Who's going to run him? War Machine? Maybe. Who do you got left? You got Hawkeye. He's got a series coming up, but I think that's him teaching his daughter how to be Hawkeye,
right? Which
would lead into the Young Avengers, which goes back to WandaVision and the twins. So
it could be Falcon or Bucky.
Yeah.
And we'll know more once that show starts.
Yeah. I think that's where you're at. So I kind of think you need Black Widow there a little bit, but who knows? I mean, we'll find out here, in May? Beginning of May?
Yeah.
All right, and then you've got Spider-Man, and that's supposed to be at least the multiple villains from the different Spider-Man iterations are coming back. Maybe not quite as the versions you saw, but it's the same actors. So kind of teasing more and more of a multiverse kind of thing. And then you get into Doctor Strange. So if you skip over Spider-Man, you cut from the end of WandaVision where she hears her kids and she slams shut the Darkhold, and then you cut to Doctor Strange. What are we looking at? We're looking at a pissed off, fully powered Scarlet Witch trying to get her kids, right? Because obviously her kids still exist somewhere. Could they be stuck in hell because we were right and they did follow the comics and they are part of Mephisto's broken soul or some shit? Now, how they do that is beyond me, because that should have come up somewhere in this series, But I know, I'm just begging. I know, Eric. I know.
He's gonna be on his deathbed.
That's right.
My feast.
That's gonna be my rosebud. But still, like, if you did it, how do you do it though? Because you should have kind of at least done some of it already. I mean, and I guess you kind of did with, like, Unleash Hell, Demon Spawn, and this and that, whatever. But it was set up better in the comics that way. So I don't know how you play around with that going forward in the MCU. I'm sure they can. They'll figure it out. In a movie, you've got 2.5, almost 3 hours to fuck around with nowadays. So I don't know. But I think we go into this with her looking for her kids, using chaos magic, and really fucks up shit. And then Doctor Strange kind of comes in to try to, one, stop her from fucking up shit, and then showing her that, look, we worked together before. I'm your friend. I'm here to help you. And they wind up working together against whatever the adversary is in that movie to try to fix whatever's going wrong. But I don't know. That's just my own theory. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, it's certainly possible. There's so many different branches they could take with that too, though. It's just...
Or they could do like this and take none of them.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I could be right back in Mephisto territory again, so, And then really pissed off. I'll carry my pissed offedness into, like, another year. It'd be great. All right, anybody got any theories leading forward?
Yeah, I got something completely different than anything we talked about. But I think it could be a way that they could sort of tie in.
Hang on, I think we need a sound effect for Captain Tangent because he hasn't been here in a long time.
Yeah. Could tie in virtually everything that they've introduced in the MCU, though. So I think you probably agree, at the end of that second credit scene, that mountain that's behind her, that place she's at, could be, the place where she got her power, where she originally was at Mount Wundagore, right? Wundagore, is that what it's called? Something.
Yeah. Wundagore.
The place where Thawne is apparently trapped, like inside the mountain or whatever, right? The guy that made the Darkhold.
Yeah, because I heard in another video that it was like just some Sokovian mountaintop, whatever. But yeah. Wundagore makes much more sense.
Yeah,
she's all powerful now. She was attracted there. Go ahead.
Well, so what I was going to say is this leads me to a whole nother thought on the villain, which may not be some celestial crazy being. Do you guys remember the High Evolutionary?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So he used that mountain as a base in one of the earlier comics, but that's not even the important part because he has tie-ins to Adam Warlock, who we've heard already that they wanted to include and didn't get to.
They
But
just confirmed him for Guardians 3.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yes.
Well, so this is where I'm going next. Is High Evolutionary has ties to the Kree, to the Guardians of the Galaxy, to Hulk, to Spider-Man, to the Fantastic Four. Am I forgetting Thor? There's more than that, but the Avengers, of course. But man, there's even more than that. Did I say the X-Men already?
No, but pull on that thread for a second. In the MCU, right now, Disney has bought out Fox. They're going to introduce mutants, right? What's the High Evolutionary's whole game in the comics and the
genetic alteration? Yeah.
What if he has a key role in bringing mutants into the MCU?
Yeah. Could be. But he also had ties to House of M indirectly, because after M Day, when Beast goes to approach these villains to figure out who can maybe help them reverse it, he's one of the 9 villains that they approached to try to reverse the effects of M Day, right? So we don't know what's actually happened now that Wanda's sort of collapsed everything and gone on her way. That doesn't mean it's all hunky-dory, right? And she's obviously in Wundagore right now, or somewhere, presumably there, fucking with that book, right? And so maybe this is the way they get to M-Day in the MCU.
That's a really good theory. I didn't even really think about the High Evolutionary. Holy shit, Eric. I'm on board.
Well, I mean, it's an easy way to wrap it all together, and even bring in a couple new characters that they seemingly wanted to already, like Adam Warlock.
Yeah. Well, Adam Warlock was brought in, at least in the pod, by that race that the Guardians face, the Golden.
Yeah.
Because they were gold.
That cocoon or whatever. And there was also the reference in Thor. I don't remember which Thor it was, but the reference to the terror, the Fisher or whatever that Adam Warlock fixed. I forgot what the hell it's called now. It really doesn't matter. But they've dropped little hints, and we know that James Gunn said it was his favorite character.
Yeah.
And he wanted to include him, but thought there was already way too many characters, and he just couldn't give it, do it any justice. So, he cut it out. So.
Yeah, but they just confirmed him for 3, so he's definitely coming in. Well, from what I've read and heard, he's coming in 3. But the High Evolutionary being tied into all that would make if Adam Warlock is still tied into that race of other space beings, then maybe the High Evolutionary doesn't quite tie into him. But
well, the High Evolutionary ends up leaving the Earth at some point and trying to build a fake Earth on another planet. That he called something. It doesn't really matter. He tries to build a fake Earth, and then Galactus ends up coming along, and he wants to eat the planet, thinking that it's going to be sustenance for him. Like, there's a whole storyline too with Silver Surfer, where High Evolutionary takes Silver Surfer's powers. There's so many different tie-ins they can use from different storylines if they make the High Evolutionary sort of the tie-in point here.
I didn't even think of him, but between him and the fact that we know they already discussed casting Kang. So, yeah, you've got 2 different ways you can go. But does that mean that, we talked about earlier, at the end of a few more years, you have to have that big bad. Does that mean that once you get past all these quote-unquote sub-bosses, mini-bosses, you get to Galactus?
Yeah, well, I think I said this. I think I said this many episodes ago, but it seems like a good way to do, Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four, sort of bring the Avengers into
Guardians, Earth, all of them. Yeah,
because it's the giant planet level threat.
Yeah, and after you've done Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, you've got to have some way to bring these guys all together again, or you're going to disappoint fans. So Galactus is one way. The other way, and they're doing it already because the first post-credit scene, you've got the Skrulls and they've already been talking Secret Invasion. So if that's not maybe a subplot that leads into something, I think the end all be all is going to be Galactus in this one. But hell, a year and a half ago, or prior to Endgame and Infinity War, we were talking, and I was like, I don't know how you get beyond the Avengers coming together and and Thanos or whatever. And now we're here, and I'm like, I'm speculating Galactus, and I'm like, I don't know how the fuck you get past that. And they're gonna do that too. they're gonna find a way.
Yeah, well, I mean, they could drop the Eternals is a good spot to drop in Galactus hints if you wanted to do a post credit.
Oh yeah, the Eternals are coming like what?
Yeah,
months?
Yeah, I reposted. I re-looked up all the dates today and reposted on the calendar. So forgive me, I don't remember which ones moved and didn't, but
it's okay. I can't find my mouse anywhere.
It's November 5th. Eternals.
All right. So let's end it with, what do you think we're growing toward? Are we growing toward Galactus? That's what my money's on.
Yeah, I think he's the big bad, but I mean like a Phase 5 big bad. He only gets hinted at in Phase 4.
Just like they did with Thanos. They're going to slowly build up. You probably deal with Secret Invasion. You're going to deal with a few other things in here, maybe Kang, whatever, and then you're going to grow to at the end of. No, it'll be at the end of Phase 6, because it was 1, 2, and 3.
You really have to bring the Fantastic Four in. You have to reintroduce Silver Surfer.
Yeah,
there's a lot of ground to set between then and now.
Yeah, the X-Men don't really have much to do with Galactus, but since they've just recently been purchased by Disney, they can easily be worked into it. Yeah, there's a lot of.
It'd be pretty terrible to have them missing again, wouldn't it? Like every time there's a world, where the fuck are the X-Men? I don't know.
I think they're going to be
doing their own movie.
So I think we're growing toward Galactus at the end of I would say Phase 6, because the same way they did. If they're going to stick with their formula, Arc 1, 2, and 3 led up to Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, they'll do something similar. And I don't know what it'll be called, Annihilation, whatever, out of the comics. But Galactus will be there. There'll be a lot of space shit, something like that. But I think throughout what I said earlier in other episodes we talked about, throughout the next few series, even though Pietro was a bust, quote unquote, maybe not, I don't know. I think you're going to start to get more and more hints about the X-Men coming up, because they did say that the mutants are coming. And even Kevin Feige said there's a working title called The Mutants, maybe to separate themselves from the Fox X-Men, but there's a title called The Mutants. We don't know which character is going to be involved or whatever, but that's there. I don't know when it's coming, but it's supposed to be coming. So I think it's coming sooner rather than later, especially if they're going to drop Fantastic Four earlier than we thought. They're going to drop X-Men earlier than we thought, too. I think you can get hints within the different series, like Omega Red and Falcon Winter Soldier, and you'll get other ones here and there.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways they could bring the X-Men in. I mean, it's not, they've made references to like there being blips in the multiverse because of the snap and whatever, right? So that's one way to do it. This whole House of M-ish storyline we've been kind of watching is a way that it's tied in the comics, right?
Yeah.
There's a Celestial link they could do. So the Celestials theoretically made mutants, right? Isn't that how it goes in the comics? Yeah. So I mean, that's another way they could use the Eternals to sort of tie in X-Men in a way. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. But
yeah, I don't know.
And of course, the lazier Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness method.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, either way, no matter how they do it, like I've said multiple times, I have 100% faith in my Lord and Savior Kevin Feige. I wish they can clone him and put him in charge of Star Wars. And so, we'll see. We're gonna get there. Anybody got any alibis for this one? Because we've gone for a while.
No.
All right. Well, in that case, let us know what you think of this episode on YouTube. Like, subscribe, ring a bell, comment down below. We'll eventually find it. Somebody will comment back to you. Hit us up at whatifgeeks.com, whatifgeeks@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Patreon is soon to be coming as soon as I figure that out. I've at least launched it. We will figure it out and we'll get that out to you, and maybe you can support us, and that would be great. I would really appreciate that, as I'm sure they would. That's it. Let us know what you think. Good night, Tony.
Good night, Ralph Boner.
For the third time, good night, twins. Forever, probably.